Bhagavad Gita is one book. It has so much of depth and it has so much of knowledge that even if it is studied throughout the life, and if we can get some drops of Bhagavad Gita, our life will become successful. So Bhagavad Gita, was spoken on the battleground. Any scripture spoken on the battleground? None. The only one, Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because it is spoken so that in our life, whenever we are in conflict, whenever we are in the war zone, so each and every solution is there in Bhagavad Gita. So before we begin, because this is a spiritual book, spiritual knowledge, so this knowledge or this wisdom is beyond human intelligence. So how to access is? The access is through prayers. So if you open page number 1 of your book, all of you have book? Anyone who requires a book? Who's seated here? My request is all those who have come here, please take full advantage. Everyone has the book. Anamika, you have the book? So you can share. You can share with someone who is sitting with you. And please open page number 1. So there is a prayer. I'll recite that prayer. If you are new, then you kindly just observe the prayer. It is there on page number 1. And then we'll come on the 3rd chapter. Okay, got it? Page number 1. So this is not like a normal academic book. What do we do with the normal academic book? We open the book, we apply our experience and learning, and we access the information. And we can process the information. But Bhagavad Gita is very mystical. The information is there, but the application will not be possible. So it requires a converter. And what is that converter? We will discuss. So the most important way is to approach it through the medium of prayers. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshitarine. So Bhagavad Gita, as you all know, this is one book which is known very well world over. If you ask any one spiritual book, which is the most famous book all over the world. So after Bible, most likely Bhagavad Gita is the second known book all over the world, all across religions, all across countries, all across continents. But Bhagavad Gita, and it's one of the most oldest book, because if you see Bible, what is the history of Bible? How many years back? 2000 years. 2000 years when Christ appeared. Before that, there is not much history. If you see Quran, what is the date? 1500 years. But Bhagavad Gita, in this version of edition which is available, is at least 5000 years old. So it is the oldest and it is well known, but still it is least understood. So that is the mystical part. So Bhagavad Gita is having 18 chapters. I'll give you an overview. Those who have come for the first time, even it is important for all of us. It is in 18 chapters. And it is in 3 sections. So equally in the 3 sections, 6 chapters are there. So the first 6 chapters speak about performing action, which is called karma. Performing action to come to the path of perfection. So all of us, in normal course of life, what do? We perform action. And in today's verse, we will see that Krishna is enlightening that there is no one who is embodied and who cannot be without performing action. Nahi kashti shanamapi jatu tishtanti akarmakrit. Why? Because he is embodied. Embodied means the soul is inside the body. So you see what is the difference between a dead man and a living man? That a dead man, he cannot perform any action. Can he perform any action? He cannot perform action. And till the time the soul lives in the body, the person cannot be inactive. So that is, so what one has to be? One has to perform the right action. And what is that art of performing the action? That is very much detailed in the first 6 chapters. So what kind of action we should perform? So that that action leads us to the path of perfection. So the first 6 chapters talks about karma yoga, or performing action which leads us to perfection. So these are the first 6 chapters. Basic focus is on karma. Karma yoga leading to Krishna. And the middle 6 chapters talk about devotion. So first 6 chapters can, if you remember one word, you will remember. That is duty. First 6 chapters talks about focusing on one's performance of duty. And you all know the very famous verse. What is the verse? Karmanne vahadikaraste. But how one has to perform action? According to his adhikar. That is very important. Unauthorized action is sinful. So what are the authorized actions? How he should perform? Though that is significantly spoken in these first 6 chapters. And the middle 6 chapters talks about devotion. That is bhakti. And the final 6 chapters talk about detachment. That is jnana. How detachment comes? It comes by knowledge. So these are the 3 broad sections. So Krishna has just started to speak Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter. And in the 2nd chapter, Krishna first gave the knowledge of the difference between body and spirit soul. Because people in general, mass of men, they do not have any understanding of who they are. They consider themselves to be the body. Are we also in that list? How many of you are beyond that list? Please raise your hand. We are all invariably in the same list. And we consider ourselves to be body, which we are not. So Arjuna was also considering himself that he is in the bodily conception of life. So Krishna first released him from this misconception by giving knowledge, which is called the Sankhya Yoga, or the Jnana, which distinguish between eternal and that which is temporary. The body is temporary and the soul is eternal, it is permanent. And then Krishna spoke about the concept of how to perform action is in the principle of Buddhi Yoga, through the guidance of spiritual intelligence. And then Krishna spoke about one who is performing Buddhi Yoga, he can come to realize to the platform of Atma, his soul. So having heard the discourse in the second chapter, Arjuna's own conception or own perception still has not changed. That is very common. We come also many times. We come, we hear, we even read, but do we change? How many of us change? We don't change. We continue to remain adamant to agree with our own perception and conception. And so is Arjuna, who is representing all of us. So he is bewildered and he inquires. So that is how the third chapter begins. In the third chapter, Arjuna puts the question and he tries to checkmate Krishna. Instead of clarifying what Krishna has spoken, he says, you are giving confusing instructions. Why? Because he does not have the desire to accept. So he says, one time you were saying that I should not perform any abominable action. So fighting is abominable, but on the other hand, you are forcing me to fight. You are asking me to perform the action which is based on knowledge, buddhi. And my buddhi tells me, my intelligence tells me that this kind of fighting is abominable. So how both can be performed? Either I give up fighting, or if I have to fight, I have to perform sinful action. So Krishna will very systematically clear Arjuna's misconception, and through Arjuna, our misconception will also be cleared. Like someone who is studying, he's saying, Prabhu, you are coming here, you are telling me I should study, I should become a first-class scientist. And also you are telling me that I should become first-class devotee. How is it possible? How both are possible? How it is possible? Krishna will explain. Because the both are in the same direction. If one is studying, what is the purpose of study? Purpose of study should be for service to others. And through the service, what we can do, we can please the Supreme. And what is devotion? To please the Supreme. So when we work in devotion, through our work, we can worship and please the Supreme. That adhikar Krishna wants us to give, if we accept. So now we come to the third chapter. We have discussed till first 4 verses. In the first 4 verses, Arjuna puts 2 questions. And in that question, he says that what you are telling me seems to be incompatible. What is incompatible? That you are telling me to perform action. On the other hand, you are telling me to be situated in intelligence. So if I am situated in intelligence, I will not perform action. That is what mass of men think. That if they will become knowledgeable, so what they have to do? They have to give up. They have to give up their responsibilities in this society. No. We discussed that at length. Anyone remembers? 2 aspects we discussed. Like you are all scientists, no? In IARI, how do you proceed? You have the theory and you conduct the experiments. Theory gives the principles and experiments gives the results. So similarly, in practice of spirituality, there are 2 aspects we discussed last time. Anyone remembers? It is the philosophy, and the other is the religion. So philosophy is like theory. It gives the principles. And religion is the practical application, is the practice. So if the philosophy is not there, can one practice religion? What it will be? It will be sentimental, or he will become a fanatic, like we see in today's world. So much of terrorist outfits have come. Why? Because they don't have any philosophy. They don't have any religion per se. They say they are having war against others based on religion. But where is the philosophy? And on the other hand, if somebody only practices philosophy or preaches philosophy, but he does not have the religion, what it is? It is only imagination or mental speculation. So both are required. So Krishna is leading Arjuna to higher enlightenment and removing his doubt. So I continue from the 4th verse to connect to the 5th verse. So in the 4th verse, Krishna says, not by merely abstaining from work. You can see 3rd chapter, verse number 4. Page number in my book is 150. You can check in your books. See the translation. So here Krishna is removing Arjuna's doubt, and through Arjuna, he is removing the doubts for all of us. So he says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. So if one does not work, thinking that the work will bring sin, or he wants to abstain from action, he cannot be free from reaction. Nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So he has checkmated what Arjuna was trying. Arjuna was trying that in the garb of buddhi or intelligence, what he will do? He will avoid the responsible action. What was the responsible action for Arjuna? To fight. To fight and to subdue all those who are irreligious. Whether they are his relatives or whether they are his friends. Duty is higher than one's own relationship. So this principle Krishna is establishing here. Why it is not possible for one to be free from reaction, and why one cannot attain perfection with renunciation. So Krishna gives the principle. This is in the 5th verse, which we will take today. Very, very remarkable verse. It gives a very distinct principle, which all of us have to accept every moment. So we will be happy if we accept it. So you can repeat after me. Nahi kashit shanamapi jatu tishtati akarma krit karyatehi avasha karma sarva prakriti jarguna. Sanskrit is not so difficult, and it is very, very sweet language. So Krishna says, Nahi. You see the last verse and this verse, he is beginning from the word Na. Na means never. So there is no possibility. This is the declaration by the Supreme Person. So if we want to be on the side of the Supreme Person, we have to follow what he is saying. And if we remain on the opposite side, then what will be the result? Only struggle. And what will be the result of the struggle? 100% failure. Because one who has created this world, he is giving the manual of how to live and how to leave this world. Like if you buy a mobile phone or if you buy any gadget, what comes with the gadget? User guide. User guide comes now. If you throw the user guide and on your own way you want to operate the machine, what will be the result? You will have to face many troubles. So Bhagavad Gita is what? It is a manual for human life. If we want to live in this human form of life, like humans, we have a choice. Some may opt not to live like humans. He has a choice. So he's saying, Nahi kashit shanamapi, very revolutionary. Shana, you understand? Fraction of a second. Our smallest unit in normal terms is seconds. And Shana is even less than a second. So he says, Nahi kashit means at ever, any time or anyone. What is not possible, not even for a moment, jatu tishtanti akarmakrit. Karma means action and akarma means inaction. A one who wants to give away his prescribed actions. So anyone who is attempting to give away his prescribed action and trying to be inactive, he cannot be, not even for a moment. Why? One may say, how is it possible? It is my choice. I just want to remain in my room and I don't want to do anything. I will not do anything. Let me see who can force me. So what are the factors which are controlling us? Karyate hi avasha karma. Karma means action. And avasha means one who has to be forced. One is helplessly. One has to be performing the action. How? Sarve prakriti jar guna. According to the prakriti. Prakriti means nature or modes. Prakriti is manifested by 3 modes. So the 3 modes of material nature will force everyone to helplessly act according to the mode he has acquired from the material nature. And he cannot remain inactive or inert, not even for a moment. So we have seen, let me simplify it to make it more relatable to us. Like you see, we see in many situations when we know that someone we don't like, but we have to face him. And what we do? We prepare ourselves. That even if he gives some provoking statement, even if he insults us, or even if he tries to say something which I don't like, what I will do? I will not react. I will not respond. It has happened many times with family members also it happens. Even husband, wife it happens. Happens? Does not happen. But what is the result? What the preparation leads us to? When the heat of the moment comes, when the pricking of the moment comes, what happens? What happens? Everything fails. Right or wrong? So, and many times we regret also that I had thought that I will not do it. I will not commit the same mistake which I committed in the past. But why it happened that ultimately I ended up being and behaving in the same way. So there is a control behind us, a controller. And who is controlling? The material nature. How? Through the mechanism of 3 modes. We will discuss that more in later chapters. What are the 3 modes? But in general, everyone does not behave the same way. Everyone behaves some in a distinguished or a different way. Why? Because of the 3 modes. So like you have 3 colors. What are the 3 basic colors? RBG, red, blue, green. And from these 3 colors, how many colors you can have? There is no limit. Millions of colors. So similarly with the 3 modes, there can be how many combinations? At least 7 billion are there. That is the population of this planet Earth. Or now at least 8 billion. Everyone is distinguished. Why? Because of the influence of the mode. The proportion may vary. And in general, I'll just share with you what are the 3 modes. One is the topmost mode is goodness. In goodness, the character and the quality of the person is that he is peaceful. He is generally peaceful, he is calm, he is composed, he is very much satisfied. And in the mode of passion, he is very desiring. He is very ambitious. He is never satisfied. And the mode of ignorance is just the opposite. That he is very lazy. He is very dirty. He is very crazy. He just wants to avoid doing any activity. So we come across such set of people. So how it is being controlled? Through the modes. So Krishna is giving this principle. I'll just speak on the principle. I'll not go on the modes now because it's a long discussion. When it will come in the later chapters, we will discuss. So Krishna is saying, never ever think, Arjuna, that even if you run away from the battle, if you don't fight, if you turn your back towards the battle, still, if you go to a secluded place, if you go to a forest and try to imitate, to become a yogi, to meditate, you will not be able to do it. You will never be able to do it. So I was discussing last session. And many times we see so many students and so many people, normal people, they come to us and they say, we want to be like you. We also want to be in the temple. We also want to become peaceful like you. That principle comes here also. Not possible. Not possible in this present position. One has to go through the process of purification. Why? Because unless and until the mind and intelligence has been transformed, unless and until the conception has been cleared, one will not be able to do that. Why? Because the modes will force him. The material nature will influence him. And again, he will be dragged to do the same thing. So I'll discuss the purport. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. So one may say, one may ask a question that, okay, when I am in this material existence, when I am embodied, when I do not have self-realization, then I am forced by the material nature. But what if I am liberated? I am beyond the modes. Then I can be inactive. Like Krishna is saying, Nahi kashti shanamapi, Prabhupada is beginning from here. It is not a question. It is not only for embodied life, it is also for the liberated stage. Whether you are in conditioned stage or whether you are in liberated stage, the nature of the soul is to be always active. So never ever one should give up his duty or think that I have done sufficient. मैंने बहुत कर लिया. I have done it for so many years. Now I should retire. There is no retirement plan. Retirement plan is what? Artificial. But one should know what one has to do. So the responsibility and the authorized action, one can never give up till the last breath of his life. So Bhagavad Gita teaches us action. It does not teach us inaction. It dispels the conception that one can retire. There is no need to run away from responsibilities. Rather, one should become responsible and discharge the duty in such a way that the duty becomes devotion. That is what Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita. So first principle is that till the time we are alive, we are active. Maybe one is not physically active, but one will be mentally active. Say, even if one is sleeping, one is active. You know how? Breathing. Yeah. Can one stop breathing while sleeping? No. Without the presence of the spirit soul, the material body cannot move. It is dead. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. So, you see, the spirit soul, how much of energy it has? The spirit soul, it is so infinitesimal small that it cannot be perceived by any human microscope or any human made any gadget or equipment. It is so infinitesimal. It is so minute. It is so small. It is so minuscule. But you see, all the activity and all the energy, where it is coming from? The soul. Because as soon as the soul leaves the body is there. If you see the composition of the body, everything is there. And soul, when it leaves the body, but the body is minus the soul, what it is? It is dead. It is useless. So till the time the soul dwells in the body, one has to perform action, one has to perform activity. So Prabhupada is saying, how it has to be performed? It has to be performed to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by the illusionary energy. So there are two streams, or there are two ways or two directions. Because the nature of the soul is to always remain active. So never be misled by anyone who's saying, yeah, I will just work for 10 years and then I will make money and I will retire and I will enjoy. It's all bogus. Have you seen people doing that? It will never happen. In their retired life, their anxiety and their insecurity is so heavy that they are always disturbed. So what one has to learn, this is what is very important. Prabhupada is saying here, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. So engagement is natural for the soul. And what kind of engagement? One has to be Krishna conscious. What does it mean to be Krishna conscious? In simple terms, what it means to be Krishna conscious, any one of you like to share? Anyone who is Krishna conscious? You can raise your hand and speak. Yes, very good, very simple. Just follow what Krishna is speaking. So one becomes Krishna conscious. Yeah. So Krishna is saying here that if you are led by what I am saying, Arjuna, then you will certainly be in the path of perfection. You will receive opulence. You will receive victory. Who does not want to receive victory? Who does not want to be victorious in his effort? Everyone. Who does not want to have opulence? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti Dhuva Nitir Matir Mama. So Shri is opulence and Vijaya is victory. And if you do not do that, what Krishna is saying, then one is sure to be misled by the illusionary energy. Illusionary energy is what? Yeah, the mind is the representation of the illusionary energy. The illusionary energy is the three modes. The three modes, what it does, it always bewilders the jiva. And it makes the jiva accept asat, which is unreal to be real. What is asat? Body. Asat. It is born and it is bound to die. Is it sat? No. It is temporary. It is for a certain period of time. And what is sat? Is the spirit soul, which will ever exist. So the illusionary energy will always force everyone in this world to accept asat as sat and to reject sat as asat. So Krishna is clearing here. He is telling Arjuna, don't be misguided. In contact with material nature, energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes. And to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. So what is the engagement? Engagement is to carry out one's occupation. What is the occupation? Occupation means according to the situation where you are. Like so many times I have discussed, you are in student life. So what should be your occupation? Is to gain knowledge. Instead of gaining knowledge, if you engage in some other action, then what will be the result? You will not be able to achieve the desired success. And that action which you perform will bind you further to bring sinful reaction. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties. And what it will do? It will purify the soul. Purify the soul means that you will be able to come to the realization that you are not this body. How? By following and working in your prescribed ways. So for different group of people in different sections, there are different occupations according to the social order. So those who are in student life, I discussed last time, I will not discuss in detail this time. What they should be doing, they should be focusing on their own occupation. They should not be focusing on Netflix. They should not be focusing on YouTube, or I don't know what more is there, what so many channels are there. Because if you do that, what you will do, you'll get misdirected or you get sidetracked from what you have to do. So, but if the soul is engaged in its natural function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. So, this requires, we discussed last time, it requires three things. Who remembers what it requires? What are the three things? Not anyone and everyone will be able to do his occupation properly. Three things are required. No one remembers? What are the three things? Yes, knowledge. So Krishna is giving the knowledge, but knowledge alone will not be able to, one will not be able to perform. What it requires? It requires training. And through the application of the principle, one will be purified, then he can apply. So, but if one is able to do that, so Krishna also speaks in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this verse is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada is quoting here that if the soul is engaged in its natural function of Krishna consciousness, the soul is always active. And the Supreme Soul, from where the soul is coming, is the Supreme Lord. So if he is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, he is in his natural position. What is natural position? I discussed last time. You remember? I gave the example of water. What is the natural position of water? Always be liquid. So that is the natural position of the soul. So it can come how? Tyaktva swadharmam charnam bhujam hare bhajan apakvo atho pathe tato yadi yatra kwa vabhadram abhud amusya kim ko vartha apto bhajatam swadharmatah. That if anyone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. That is for one who has completely dedicated himself, not for normal course of practice. But if he carries out all other injunctions of purification in the Shastras, what does it avail to him if he is not Krishna conscious? So the purification process is necessary for reaching the point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyasis or any purificatory process, sannyasa or purificatory process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So Krishna is recommending Arjuna that you cannot change your profession or your occupation whimsically, without the process of purification. And here it's being talked about someone who wants to take sannyas. What Arjuna was trying to take? He was trying to take premature sannyas. Sannyas means one who wants to give up his social responsibilities. It is not possible. Why it is not possible? First principle, Krishna says that you cannot become inactive. Why? Because the constitution of the soul, the character or the nature of the soul is to become always active. It cannot be inactive. So that theory which people propagate, that the soul will merge with the super soul and become inactive, it is possible? Is it possible? Think logically. Is it possible? Never possible. It's a misleading. Because the nature of the soul is to always be active. It cannot become dormant or inactive. So the sixth verse, Krishna gives the principle why Arjuna cannot give up the battle. So he says, 6th verse, you can repeat after me. Karmendriyani sanyamya yaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sauchyate. So Krishna is giving a reference of the working senses. So we have two sets of senses, you all know. One is the knowledge acquiring senses. Like how we are acquiring knowledge is through the faculty of ear. We are hearing. And the ear is the sense organ. And what is the sense object is the hearing. We are hearing the sound. Similarly, through the eyes, what we do? See the form. Through the tongue, what we do? We taste. So we are able to discriminate whether we want to do it or we want to leave it. So we have the knowledge acquiring senses. 5 knowledge acquiring senses are there. Quickly, eyes, ears, nose to smell, and tongue to taste, and skin for touch. Okay? And there are 5 working senses. Knowledge acquiring senses and working senses. What are the working senses? Our hands, our legs, then speech, our vani. Then what are the other 2? Genitals for procreation, for reproduction, and anus for keeping the body clean. If any of them does not, if the hand does not work, what is the position? We cannot perform our action. The legs do not work. So all 5 is required. So Krishna is saying that karmendriya sanyamya. If someone is trying to put a restriction on his working senses, and ya aste manasa smaran, but if one is not working, one is not putting into action some occupation, but what he is doing on the, maybe physically he is not performing the act, but what is he doing? He is meditating on the same thing by his mind. Yaste manasa smaran. Many times it happens. No? The exams are coming, I will not go and watch movie. Okay. Last time I did not perform well, or I was watching cricket match, or I was watching movie. So this time I will not watch cricket match. I will not watch movie. But what is the mind doing? What is the mind doing? The mind is still always meditating on the same. So Krishna is giving that principle here, that mere abstinence is not sufficient. You understand what is abstinence, no? Mere forceful withdrawal is not sufficient. Why? Because the inclination from inside still is there. The natural attraction or inclination is still there. So such a person, indriyarthan vimurartha. So when the sense object comes into contact with the senses, so what is there? He is easily carried away. So such abstinence or such kind of restriction is what? That a person is called mithyachari. Mithyachari, you understand? Pretender. Pretender. So in today's world, you see, most of the people, they are in this category. What is the category? Mithyachari. All bogus, all pseudo, all show. Why? Because ye aste manasa smaran. Although they are showing themselves as being renounced, but inside what they are doing, they are thinking of the sense objects or sense enjoyment. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, don't become such a pretender. At least have some consideration that you are my friend. What people will call you? Why you want to become a pretender? So that is why you have to be very clear that who is real and who is unreal. So Krishna is giving the classification here. That whoever in his mind is thinking of sense enjoyment or who is thinking of pleasures, such a person is not a spiritualist. Such a person is not a renounced order. So what is the principle? One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So what must change? The desire must change. The attraction and the inclination should change. Then that is pure, then that is proper. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that even if you leave the fight from here, you see Dhritarashtra, did he fight? He did not fight. But where was his heart? He did not come to Kurukshetra. But actually, was he Kurukshetra or was he outside Kurukshetra? He was always in Kurukshetra. He is always asking Sanjay, what is happening on the battle? Please tell me. Please tell me. So where is he? Where is his consciousness? In the battle. Because he is a Kshatriya. So that is what Krishna is emphasizing here. So someone says that I don't want to study now. I don't want to do my exams. So what he will do? What else he will do? He says that if I do some other profession, there will not be so much of trouble. Or you go wherever. You do whatever. The same sets of troubles will be there everywhere. Why? Because wherever you are going with your nature. Some people want to migrate. Some of my relatives also, they did that. They want to go to Australia. Why? Australia, everything is very much, systematic. There is nothing, nonsense happening in my life. No nonsense will happen in my life. There will not be anyone who will come and disturb me. You go wherever, even you go to moon planet. You go to anywhere. You are carrying your own nature. So what is the best possibility? What is the best recourse? That according to the nature, you engage yourself. You engage yourself and work in such a way that your work becomes worship. This is what Krishna is explaining here. So Prabhupada says that there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness, but make show of meditation. So Prabhupada is exposing so-called. So every year, if you see how many are exposed, so many. Some is Rampal, some is Ram Rahim, I don't know. Some is Asha Ram, so many people. So what are they doing? They are all pretenders. While actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, these are the greatest cheaters. So today's world is filled with those who are cheaters and those who are cheated. Those who are trying to be cheaters, what they will get? They'll get only one result. They will get cheated. So what one has to be? One has to be very honest. What is the honesty? That he must discharge his duty, whether he likes it or he dislikes it. He should not run away from his duty. So many people have many misconceptions about that. Is not because they have not studied Bhagavad Gita. They do not know what is the content of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is emphasizing here that Arjuna, do not run away from your duty. You will first, it is against your nature. Even if you forcibly do that, you will not be able to do it. So better you perform your prescribed action. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity in the social order. But if one follows the rules and regulation of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. So what is the process of uplifting, coming to the platform of soul? Is the gradual process of purification. And how is the purification? By engaging in prescribed action. Through action, what we can do? We can come to the stage of purification. So Krishna is guiding Arjuna. But he who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for objects of sense gratification must be called the greatest cheater. Even though he sometimes speaks of philosophy, his knowledge has no value. So both things are more important. Philosophy is there. Bhagavad Gita gives the philosophy. But higher than philosophy is practice. Who is practicing that philosophy in his life. That is what Prabhupada is saying. His knowledge has no value because the effect of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusionary energy of the Lord. Such a pretender's mind is always impure, and therefore his show of yogic meditation has no value whatsoever. So don't be cheated. Don't go after cheap people who will show you some magic tricks, who will bluff you to change your destiny. No one can change. Only one person can change, and that is the Supreme Lord. And how? You don't have to do something very revolutionary. You have to do something very basic. It's just to follow what he's saying. Just be honest in your occupation and be guided. Don't do it whimsically. So I'll take just the next verse. I'll complete this sequence. So Krishna says in the next verse, in the 7th verse, Yastru indriyani manasa niyam yarambhate arjuna karmendriya karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. So Krishna is giving the contrast. First, he has spoken about one who is trying to run away and take the occupation of someone else. I will leave to be a scientist. I will become a banker. I'll have a lot of money. I will have a lot of respect. There will not be any trouble. This is useless. It will never work. So, on the other hand, one who is not giving up his occupation, but who is sincere. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga. So Krishna is giving the principle of yoga. How? Through action, which is karma. So we can all, through our action, through our prescribed action of occupation, we can perform karma yoga. So Bhagavad Gita gives us the art of yoga. Every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is entailed with yoga. So this chapter itself is directly karma yoga. So how to perform action so that that action can lead us for, as I said, for success in this human form of life by being in karma yoga, which is Krishna. Without attachment, he is by far superior. So this is the judgment of the Supreme Lord. That is the judgment which values. Any other judgment has not much value. So in his opinion, what Krishna is saying, that if one is sincere and he performs karma yoga according to his social position, social order, according to his nature, he is performing the action, he will gradually purify. He begins the process of karma yoga. Okay, what is karma yoga? This we will discuss in the next session. Krishna is telling Arjuna that do not show off your false knowledge. So here, the next section is how karma yoga is higher than jnana yoga for Arjuna. And same for all of us. Same for all of us. Work now, samadhi later. This is the time for action, prescribed action. Okay, so I'll stop here because I don't want to delay. But we discussed two principles. To summarize, what is the first principle? Who can summarize? What is the first principle that we spoke today? We discussed. Raise your hand and speak. What was the first principle? Wait. Those are. I hope it was, it was transmitted to everyone. समझ में आया ना? पहला सिद्धांत क्या मिला आज भगवत गीता से? There are three things. First is the discovery. कुछ डिस्कवरी मिला या नहीं मिला? कुछ नया खोज मिला? What is the discovery? बोलो भाई. क्या नया आपने प्राप्त किया आज? क्या इंफॉर्मेशन, नॉलेज, प्रिंसिपल क्या मिला आपको? आप यहाँ आए, 1 घंटे तक आपने मुझे सुना, ऑलमोस्ट फुल 1 घंटा बोला मैंने. क्या, what did you receive? What is the new exploration? That we cannot remain without action. Action will be either physical or mental. So never try to run away from action. Never think that if I will retire, I will be peaceful. That will never happen in life. Till the time the soul exists, one has to perform action. What action he has to perform? He has to perform Krishna conscious action. Krishna conscious action. Okay? That is first principle. What is the second principle we discussed? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. The struggles are there because we are not performing duty. If we perform duty, then there is no struggle. What is the second principle we discussed? We should never ever try to become a pretender. We should always remain honest. We should do what we are inclined to do. What according to our nature we are inclined to do. Do not try to imitate others or do not try to copy others. To try to become better, it will never happen. That is what the world is doing. What everyone is trying to think. He is thinking the others are better. The other job is better. The other company is better. The other profession is better. The other study is better. The other institute is better. The other teacher is better. Everything, the grass on the other side is green. It is never green. What is evergreen? If you are engaged properly in your occupation. That is the path of perfection. Understood? If you understand these two principles, how much more suffering from your life will be finished? All up to us. And this is the words of the Supreme Lord. It can never ever be any other situation. So Bhagavad Gita is required. You see how much of needless struggle we are doing, needless effort we are making, in which direction we are going, just the reverse direction. So Bhagavad Gita gives us the right direction, what to do and what not to do. Okay, any question, any doubt, please ask. Yes. Illusionary energy of the Lord means that, see, like the three modes are there. There are three energies of the Lord. Everything is three. Like the three colors are there. So there are three energies of the Lord, principal energies of the Lord. One is the spiritual energy. Spiritual energy also has three different components. One is, it is Sat. Sat means it gives the eternity principle. That anything which is spiritual, it is everlasting. It is forever. It is eternal. And the second aspect of the spiritual energy is the Chit feature, which talks about knowledge. That Bhagavad Gita is also about the Chit potency of the Lord. And the third is the Ananda. Sat, Chit and Ananda, you've heard? So Anand means bliss. What everyone is searching for is Anand. So when one is in contact with the spiritual energy, when one is under the shelter of the spiritual energy, so these three things will manifest in his life. What are the three things? That he will come to the eternal existence. Second, he will be guided by knowledge. And third, what he will experience in his life is eternal happiness. So that is the spiritual energy. Like you have, the government has the police force or law and order department. And the other energy is the illusionary energy, which is called the Maya Shakti. What does Maya Shakti does? It does just the reverse. Those who do not want to accept the instructions of the Supreme Lord, they are taken care by the illusionary energy. So as I said, what the illusionary energy does, it has three modes. What are the three modes? Sattva, Rajas and Tama. Three modes are there. And what it does, it keeps the living entity, the Jiva, away from the spiritual energy. The Jiva thinks that he can be Ishvara. He can control. He can occupy. He can be the proprietor. He can be the controller. He can be the enjoyer. And the most significant impact of the illusionary energy is that it always gives the illusion or understanding that what is unreal to be real and what is real to be unreal. So what we have to do? We have to shift from the influence of illusionary energy and take shelter of the spiritual energy. The third energy is the Jiva, we the living entity. So the Jiva has always the choice. What is the choice? Either it can be under the influence of the illusionary energy, or it can be under the influence of the spiritual energy. That choice is there with each and every one of us. It depends on us what we select. Like Duryodhana and Arjuna both had the choice. What did Arjuna choose? Krishna. And what did Duryodhana choose? Narayani Sena. Yeah. See, three things: knowledge, training, and purification. Purification will come with the prescribed action. So, what is Krishna clearing? Krishna is clearing Arjuna's illusion, his misconception. What is considering unreal to be real and real to be unreal. Like we said, what the world is trying to do, they are thinking if they have more money, if they have big job, if they have big house, if they have big car, they'll be happy. They can never be happy. Do a survey of those who have this. You see their situation? They are most lonely people in the planet. They only have these things, but no one in their heart. How can they be happy? So Krishna is saying these two principles that we saw. That never give up your prescribed action and never try to imitate what others are doing. That will never ever give us any happiness. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Mamta.
So why then Siddhanta is not prescribed by these sanskars? Because even the Japanese, he said that this sannyas is not good.
Who said sannyas is not good? Mahaprabhu said sannyas is good. Mahaprabhu took sannyas, but it is not recommended sannyas because qualified candidates are not there. What kind of candidates are there? Mithyacharis. You see, so many bogus babas. They are posing as sannyasis, but are they sannyasis? They are not sannyasis. They are still after wealth, wine, and women, and they are saying they are sannyasis. So that is why sannyas is not recommended, because we do not have such qualified men. Why they are not qualified? Because they are not engaged in Krishna consciousness. So that is why sannyas means that one has come to that level where his entire mind, his senses, his intelligence has been purified. He has been transformed. He is not looking for any material gain. Rather, he is only interested in giving everyone the spiritual gain. Do we find any selfless such sadhu who will take the pain and give you the gain? They are wanting their gain. They are wanting what you have. From your pockets they want to take and enjoy. So such sannyas is banned. Not. Sannyasi means that who is 100% Krishna conscious. So if one is 100% Krishna conscious, he can take sannyas. He is already a sannyasi. Krishna is speaking in so many verses. Ge sanitya sannyasi, yona dveshti na kankshati. Then no need of taking a formal dress of sannyas. If one is Krishna conscious, he is already sannyas. Sannyas means that he is completely detached from this world. Nothing from this world can incline him or attract him. He is already liberated. But where are such men of such high standards of purification? What you will see? You will see pretenders, mithyacharis. And what they will do? They will do vyabhichar. Okay. Anyone else? Any doubt or any question? Puchiye.
I heard something of soul and super soul.
Yeah, Krishna speaks about it. Soul and super soul, yes. Both soul and super soul are there in the heart of every living entity. Every living entity. You see, it is so infinitesimal, it is so small, it is so minuscule that by any human device you cannot detect. The super soul, the expansion of the Supreme Lord as a super soul is there with every living entity in every species of life. There are 8,400,000 species of life. And the super soul is there in everyone's heart. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriday deshe arjuna tishtati. Bhramyan sarva bhutani yantra rudani maya. So many evidences Krishna is saying. Aham atma gudakesha sarva bhuta ashaya stita. So he is there. But our connection and communion has not begun. Has it begun? समझे आप? हमारा भगवान जो परमात्मा है उनके साथ कम्युनिकेशन स्टैब्लिश हुआ है? नहीं हुआ है. वो करना है. That is success of human life. है? बिल्कुल है. भगवान भगवद गीता में कई जगह कंफर्म की. He is present in everyone's heart as the super soul. सर्वस्य चाहम हृदय सन्निविष्टो मत्ता स्मृतिर्ज्ञानम अपोहनम च वेदेश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदांत कृतवेद विदेव चाहम सर्वस्य चाहम हृदय सन्निविष्टो. So who is closest to us? Is the super soul. Where Atma and Paramatma are just side by side. Everything else is external, is outside, temporary. All relationships are based on body. Before the birth of the body, was there any relationship in this world? And when this body ceases to live, will there be any relationship? It is only pertaining to some time, temporal. But that is eternal. The soul and the super soul. They are never lost. They are never broken. So Bhagavad Gita speaks about it. Krishna confirms. And why is he there in the heart as a super soul? Because he wants to help us. He wants to guide us. So Krishna speaks that Jitatma Prashantasya Parama Samahita. The 6th chapter, 5th verse. Krishna says, when you can come to realize the super soul, Jitatma Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. Yeah. 6th chapter, 7th verse. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. That is the level. When one can come to the level of realizing the super soul who is inside. Yogis are there. The meditative process of Dhyan Yoga is there to come to realize first the self as Atman, and when the mind is completely purified. 6.7, page number 279. Got it? Read. No. 7th. Wait. For one who has conquered the mind. For one who has conquered the mind. Then one can come to super soul. Because between the soul and the super soul is this devil called mind. So Jitatmaha. What one has to conquer? One has to conquer his mind. Jitatma Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. And how to know that he is at that level? Second line. Shitoshna Shukha Dukkheshu Tatha Mana Apamanayo. Such a person, to such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor, all are, where are we? We are affected. So that means one has crossed the mental level. One has crossed the ego level. One has come to be situated at the level of pure spirit. Then he is conquered. He's conquered all. So then one can communicate the super soul. The super soul directly guides. All famous acharyas, sages, perfected beings, they are directly guided by the super soul. In our case, even if the super soul guides, what do we say? We say, shut up. Who says shut up? Our mind. Because that is our guru. Our guru is our mind. Whatever he guides, we will do that. Yes or no? Yeah. So we are not Krishna Das, we are Manahadas. Manahadas. Manahadas, Sadavdas. So never mind. Just keep coming and hearing Bhagavad Gita. If you do that, gradually everything else will fall in place. Everything else will come. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai God Premanandi Hari Hari. Hare